We're starting to get to the heart of the problem now of this assignment number 6. What I want to show you now is how to work with structs. They're a little different. They're a little different in that what we've got to do is we've got to tell the compiler what our structure or our record looks like. And we usually do that up the top in the same place where we declare the prototypes and the constants. It starts off with the word struct, S-T-R-U-C-T, and then we give it a name. Okay, we're going to call it roster, and we're going to uppercase the first letter. We're going to do a left bracket, and now we're going to tell it the things that is in this structure. Now we're not allocating storage, we're just telling the compiler what it looks like. So the first thing we're going to do is string last name semicolon string first name, and then character cheesecake, and this is what will contain either the letter P or the letter C, indicating whether it's a pie or cake. We do a right bracket to tell it that's the end of our structure, and notice how they match up, and then a semicolon. So now we have told it what our structure looks like. Again, just to repeat, we've not allocated any storage or set aside any space for it. We've just told it where what it looks like. Now down in our main routine, okay, we want to actually declare the item that's actually going to hold all the records. Now remember, at this particular point in time, we do not know how many records we're going to have to store. We're going to have to use a pointer. That definition looks like this: struct, okay, roster, goes up and it looks and says, okay, no roster. Then we need to give it a name, and but before we do that, we've got to put an asterisk right there to tell it that this is a pointer to a group of things, or just an address, and give it a name, my roster. Right. So at this particular point in time, we don't know how many, at the time we're writing the program, how many records there are. Otherwise, we'd declare it. We'd say, I'm going to have 132. Let me show you what that looks like, just to show you. Okay, if I knew how many there were, which I do, okay, I'd put it right here. I'd say 213. Okay, we've set aside storage now, but I don't, so I can't do that. I have to do this. Okay, so what the compiler is going to expect us to do is somewhere down in our program, it's going to expect us to allocate storage to that structure. And that's done right here. Okay, write this line of code right here. I don't have to call a routine to do this. It's only one line of code. And what I have to do is I have to go off to the heap and ask it for space, and it's done like this. I put in my roster, okay, equal to, and then I have to say new. Go out and get a new bunch of memory, make it look like the structure roster, and get number of records. Okay, semicolon. Make it look nice. Okay. Now let's go ahead and save this and compile it. I compile all the time. I'm just constantly testing. I write a little bit of code, I test a little bit, write a little bit of code, test a little bit. It's just a very, very good practice. And again, I do that because if I make a mistake, the mistake has to be in just the code that I just wrote. We're going to go ahead and run it. Pull it over so we can see it. And what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for any unusual interruptions or address exceptions or anything like that. And I don't see it. It looks like everything ran okay. Okay, very good. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I've already allocated the storage, and there's really no way for me to um, check that. So it looks okay. I'm going to assume it's all right for right now, but I'm going to go ahead and start writing the rest of the program. Okay. So what I want to do now is I wanted to read the records into the structure. Okay. I'm going to go up and design it first. Okay. I don't need it to return anything. I just want it to put the records into the structure that I just wrote, my roster. All right. So I don't want it to return anything, and I'm going to call it read survey. And the things I'm going to pass into it are the record count, and I'm going to pass. I can go ahead and make that a constant too. Const int. Pass in an integer that indicates how many records I've got. I'm going to pass in the file name, and then I'm going to pass in the structure. And notice that I'm passing it in as as a pointer. I do this because we want the structure actually to be altered. We want to put the records in there. The integer, the first integer, the record count, we don't want to change. We don't want to change the file name, but we do want to change the structure. Now I'm going to call it. Okay, I'm down here and I'm going to call it. I'm going to say read survey. I'm going to pass it the record count, which is number of records. I'm going to pass it the file name, which is in file name, and I'm going to pass it my roster, which is the space we just allocated right here. Now I'm going to write that routine. I'm not going to write it all. We're getting into the part of the program where you really need to start looking at it, but we've designed it right here. So what's the basic philosophy here? Well, let's look at record count. Record count, we're passing in the file name, and we kind of want to do the same thing. We want to open the file, and we want to go through the file until end of file, and we want to read things in. Let's go ahead and set up the basic routine. To do that, go up here and just copy the prototype. Just Control C down here and put it in there. Okay, and we're going to put in some names here so that we can use it. So RC for record count. Okay, FN for file name, and MS for my survey. We'll take off the semicolon. Okay, and there is our basic routine right there. Now let's go through the design here, and we're going to use our little practice. The first thing you want to do is open the file. Okay, and we can do one of a couple things. We can put this through a for loop to read in the records, or we can do it until end of file. But it's some type of loop to read in the records. Okay, and we'll say until EOF or number of records read. Okay, very important, very important. You can do either one. Since you've got the correct number of records counted, you can do either one. They should be fine. Now you're going to use a variation of CIN or COUT. Let me show you this. And we're going to open the file. You have to declare that file first, and we're going to say ifstream my file, and you're going to my file dash open file name. Okay. Now, whenever you read in a record, what you're going to do is inside the looping structure, you're going to have some type of counter. Okay. And that counter is going to allow you to put the records in the appropriate place. So inside the looping structure, you're going to say my file, just like CN would be MS for my structure, and you're going to use the counter, some type of counter. Okay. Dot last name. Okay. My file MS counter first name, and then my file MS counter cheesecake. Okay. And loop. Close file. Okay. Return. And then we'll go ahead and hit here in counter 0. We'll declare that, get rid of the little syntax errors down there. And let's fix that. All right. Now, we've opened the file here. This looping structure is what's important here. You know, how are you going to do this? How are you going to go through and continually read in the 3 items and put them in the correct place? You can do a for loop, or you can use the while loop. Look up here to kind of get an indication. While not my end of file, I can loop through this. This is very, very similar to what you can do right in this particular location. Okay. Well, that is the lecture on how to allocate storage, create the structures, and to read in the survey.